Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you. Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Get your ass out. You're not in here.
Yes, I am.
Move. Give it to him hard.
No.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Why you stabbing me with it? No.
They want to help,
Ow.
but don't know how.
Oh, you got...
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
Welcome back to Fox Valley Headline Makers. I'm Ryan Morton, and my guests are Dr. Dawn Green, the superintendent of Somonauk School District 432, and Jay Weigman with the Citizens for Somonauk Schools group. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
The Citizens for Somonauk Schools, as they're trying to push this referendum for the second time to increase your taxes slightly, but in doing so, help all of the students in the school district and help the community more. And we'll touch on all of that in a little while. But let's talk about the cuts specifically, Dr. Green. Tell us, I guess, because the board has decided what will be cut if more revenue isn't collected, right?
Right.
Where will it be cut?
Well, this is a tough thing for the board, and you know, first of all, I want to say kudos to those board members who are doing a job that's very, very thankless. So they've made some tough decisions with input from the administration, and you know, administration keeps in good contact with our teachers union. This year we have a couple of retirements, so we're not looking to replace those retirements by hiring externally. We would hire them from our own people, move people into those positions. We have cut a physical education teacher at the high school and an English teacher at the high school as well. What else we're looking at? Those things had to be done in a timely manner per law, school code, so we've already done those.
Right, there had to be enough notice.
Exactly. Some of those things could change, you know, based on the referendum. But also, like, we're looking at middle school sports. We're all middle school sports, and we're looking at track and field for our students.
On the high school level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's also at the middle school, but that
Right.
would be that we're saying is cut. We're looking at reducing our number of students that go to the Indian Valley Vocational Center, which we've already done previously, but we're talking about reducing it even more. We cut some buses and bus drivers this year and doubled up some routes, which has not made people very happy, understandably so. You know, that's something that really, you know, gets right to affecting your life and how you have lived things in the past. And so we now have students that wait after school for a little time period before getting on a bus, and because the bus goes out, does a route, and then comes back and then gets those kids and goes out again. So we're looking at doing even more of that. Right now we only do it with 2 routes, 2 buses. So we've actually ordered 2 less buses, and we'll cut 2 more drivers for next year. We're looking at reducing another teacher from the elementary school. Again, driving up class sizes. You know, those are the types of things, you know, we're talking about the major cuts, the big cuts for the following year. In year 2, those would be eliminating agriculture, eliminating art, eliminating band. We already reduced vocal music last year. We only have it at the elementary and at the middle school.
That's one that touches me closely, because I'm a singer myself, and so to imagine a school without choir, it baffles me.
Yes, and bless her heart, our teacher has done like a program, where kids can, like a club, so that they are still singing, they are still getting some of that enjoyment. But, again, those are things that, just looking at numbers and where can we make cuts, where can we make cuts, and it wasn't easy. And, I was at a concert last year, and as soon as the concert got over, someone, came up to me, how can you cut this? How can you possibly cut this? And I know what she felt, because I'm enjoying the concert. It was wonderful. And then, this is what we're having to do.
But where else could you cut? I mean,
you can't cut the basics. You can't.
Right.
I mean, that's by law. You have to have them. We have to have them. So, we would look at computers, middle school computers as well. I mean, those are all elective things. When you take away those electives, you take away the day for the kids, and you take away the plan time for the teachers. So we would probably be looking at the kids starting later in the day. The teacher's plan time would be there in the morning, and then they would go straight through their day, basically with those core teachers: math, English, social studies, science. That's not what we want for our kids. I know that's not what the community wants for the kids, and I think we've done everything that we can, to get us, to save and to be fiscally responsible. Now we're to the point where we would have to cut some of those programs.
Jay, a lot of the people at home are in the older generation. They're home right now because they're retired, and they have the time to watch it. Of course, this show does replay several times over the weekend. But you've got those people, you've got single people, you've got married with no children families in Salmonaught School District who don't have, or the way they see it, they don't have a vested interest in this. Maybe the grandparents, their kids are in another district or something like that, their grandkids. But listening to Dr. Green talk, you're talking about then students going through the school system without any of the vocational experience, without any of the cultural learning, the basics, sure, math and English, but the society, the community suffers by not having art or music or things like that. Not to mention the effect of kids not being in school for as long, perhaps, for parents needing to adjust their schedules to try and make do with however the buses are working, whenever school ends. There are a lot of ramifications to the community beyond just if your kids are in school.
And I think it's a ripple effect. It starts with kids not having as rounded an education and ends up with them having more difficulty getting into colleges, having more difficulty receiving that kind of education, and then contributing less back to the community. On a day-to-day basis, if kids don't have sports, then we have a problem with how are they filling their time. And there are statistics that suggest that juvenile delinquency rates increase when there aren't those kinds of activities available for kids. Beyond that, the way it affects the community, I think, is it starts at a basic level of pride in the community and in the schools. If there's no more rally point around the basketball team, or we saw with the cheerleaders a couple of weeks ago finished 7th at state, and it brings the community together and everybody's proud of that, those kinds of opportunities for community involvement aren't there anymore. Beyond that, I think that everybody from seniors to single people who don't have children are affected in terms of what this does to their property values. Because again, people are going to leave the community, people you would want to come to the community aren't going to be attracted to it, and property values are going to fall. And we see that across the board where schools are shuttered, the community basically disappears. And so I'm concerned about what's going to happen to the businesses in terms of the customers that they will continue to have, the amenities that they can offer to the community are going to struggle, and everybody in the village is going to struggle. Those are the concerns. Just start at the school, but they reach very broadly very quickly, and I think that they encompass everybody, whether you're a senior, whether you have kids in the school. That may be a slightly more obvious interest, but I think the interest is very strong nonetheless.
The referendum asked to increase the levy from 3.05 to 4, correct?
For the education fund.
For the education. And that's a slightly more than it was in November, but I assume that's because there's been more months than of that revenue lost?
That's part of it, yes.
So the effect then, let's say I have a $100,000 home, to keep it simple numbers, how much will taxes increase then on my property bill?
At $100,000, you would be looking at the EAV is going to be $33,000 because you divide by 3,
Sure.
and then you take $6,000 out for the homestead exemption, so you're looking at $2,700. Then
$27,000.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
$27,000, and so the overall tax is likely to be, it would be 9% this year. It would be 10% next year.
Okay.
So a 9% times the 2,700, if you just take the 1% change, you're looking at taxes probably going down. Taxes are going to go up by $270 at the absolute maximum, because the 1% increase in the levy amounts to a 10% increase in the overall tax. But we expect that the taxes this year, the assessor tells us, are going to go down 9% across the board. And we expect that they're going to go down another 6% the year after that.
So while the education levy might be going up, your overall taxes will still be going down.
Right. And you balance that then against the fact that they've already gone down 10% now. So my taxes started at $5,600 in 2009. They have gone down to about $5,000. And I expect that next year they're going to go down another $500 because of I've been informed by the assessor, my assessment is going down 11.5%. So if you take that down another approximately $500, I have saved $1,000 over the last few years in my tax bill. The expected increase of 10% off of my now $4,500 tax bill raises at $450. It's going to be around the same as what it was last year, and it's still going to be $500 less than it was 3 years ago. You know, I don't mind having the extra money, but I feel guilty taking it away from the community and from the kids in school.
Well, I was going to say, so it's a great thing for people to have lower taxes, especially in this difficult time. I know there are a lot of people at home who are struggling and are glad to know that while the economy is in a worse situation than it was 5 years ago, at least their taxes are finally starting to come in line with that because of their reduced property value. If their house is worth less, then they should be paying less, right, and especially when they need that money more. But there's something to be said for the students needing it even more, looking towards the future.
Well, and one thing that has been said most particularly by Ron Anderson, the owner of the Village Courtyard Restaurant and a longtime educator in town, said that this is the only tax that we get to keep and have any control over. When you pay a federal tax, it doesn't stay in Somonauk. It doesn't even necessarily stay in the state of Illinois. When you pay the Illinois income tax, that doesn't stay in Somonauk. But these taxes do. And they repay the teachers who are members of the community and purchasing from businesses. It keeps the school running and benefits both the property owners and the school children.
We have only about a minute left in the show, so we again just want to hammer home the point for people that while your tax bill for education might be going up, ideally for most people it will be going down overall.
It's right. It's going to be pretty low.
From previous.
I would expect that the check you wrote in 2012 is going to be the same as the check you write next year in 2014. And part of the reason for that is these cuts won't take effect until next year.
And then the revenue, if this does pass, the revenue coming in, Dr. Green, would go towards preventing future cuts,
right,
but not restoring what's already been lost necessarily.
Not at this time. I mean, it's just not enough revenue to restore those. And I thought of one that I didn't mention. We looked at middle school sports cut. We would look at all high school sports the following year as well.
So
and that's
that
pretty
might have
significant because there's a lot of people that come to events and, you know, the blue and gold night and, you know, our rivalries with different schools. Those are big parts of the community, not just our school, but certainly would hurt our kids.
Turnout is always very low in municipal elections, somewhere between 10 and 20%. Don't let that happen to you or your kids or your neighbors. Go out and vote whichever way you feel in the referendum. Go out and vote April 9th. And not just for that, but for school board and for all these other issues throughout our area.